Hello everyone, I'd just like to do a demonstration of how I make my notes in Notability, so we're just going to jump right into it. Alright, so when you open Notability, you can see that you have your types of notes on the left, which includes subjects, which are these dots right here, as well as dividers. And the dividers can contain whatever subjects you'd like. These are going to be my classes for next semester, but I really don't want to look at those. So I'm just going to go over to practice right here and make a new subject. We'll call this just like YouTube video or something. YouTube video. Done. You can tap and hold and drag down. And so you got that there. In order to make a new note, you go to the top right corner and hit new note. And one thing that I really like to do with my notes is use a custom PDF template. So I'm going to go over to my OneDrive where I have my template. And it is a dot paper template. So we're going to open in another app, copy to Notability, and then add to this note. So now we've got some dot paper here. You can edit your title by tapping on it there, and you can call it whatever you'd like. We'll just call this like practice for YouTube. You can also edit the date too, which is kind of sneaky if you don't want people to see when you started your work. You can also disable this feature entirely in the settings. You also have different paper settings built into Notability. So you can have blank, you can have lined on different size and different grid size paper. You can also change the color, which I'm not a big fan of, but if you'd like to, it's all up to you. So we're gonna look at the top toolbar. Obviously, this arrow to the left takes you out of your note, so let's not hit that again. This is the share button, and I use OneDrive, as you saw. It's extremely easy to upload your documents up there, so you can pick the folder within your cloud storage, and normally I'd go to my current classes and then hit this, and then I can export if I'd like to, but I'm not going to do that. It's just going to send the note that you're working on as a PDF to your cloud storage. It's extremely easy. You can choose what kind of format you'd like. I'm always going to use PDF because it's the best compatibility between devices. You can change the page range, and you also have the option to include recordings, which is going to be shown by this microphone right here. Some foreshadowing. And page margin. I always leave this off just because you can preview it here, see what it's going to look like, and whenever you're ready, you can just send it to OneDrive. You can do this for any of the different cloud services on here, as well as other apps. All right, this arrow right here, the sort of circly arrow, that is the undo button. So when you write something, you can do this to undo it. You can also tap and hold to get the menu to undo or redo. So you can redo, redo, redo. This is really useful. I usually use the undo button to erase rather than use the eraser actually. So moving on, we've got the text box tool. I never use this. I like to write all my notes just because it's a better sort of internalizing thing, writing things down rather than typing them. So this is your pencil or pen tool, obviously. You can change the different colors as well as like a pressure sensitivity sort of mimicking this almost. It gives it a fountain pen look almost. See the difference here? It gets thinner. There, this one is uniform throughout. So you can change the styling of it. I think the one I was on previously looks cooler. This one right here. You can also change the size of your pen. No one's going to use that. I like to keep mine relatively thin just because that's how I write. Right here's the highlighter tool. I find this really useless. You'd think this yellow would be a lot brighter, but it's not very bright at all. It doesn't really match the same sort of brightness that an actual highlighter has. So I don't really use this too much, but if you want to, it's there. You can change the type of highlighter if you're interested in that. So I'm gonna just leave that. This is the eraser, of course. There's only one setting, and it is stroke erase. So say I write something in cursive. that says YouTube. Don't worry, that's a big E, but it doesn't really matter. If I tap this once, it's gone. Honestly, it would be nice if they included a sort of standard eraser type, but this is what they gave us. This is the select tool, so you can actually move around your text. This is a very useful tool that I use on a daily basis when I'm at school. It makes you it lets you reorganize your notes so that they look nice and pretty. You can, when you're selecting them, you can also tap. You can hit style. You can also change the color or the size, which is pretty useful as well. So you can change it to whatever you'd like. This is it's like the selection. I don't even know what it is, but it lets you move around if you're using your Apple Pencil. I don't use this at all. If I'm going to be moving around my paper, I'm going to be using my fingers. So I don't really see the utility in this. This button is the record button. As you can see, it's recording right now. The level that it's going up the circle, that is the mic level. You can tap to pause, and this little down arrow will give you the record, the recording itself. You can play this at 1 times speed, 1.5 times speed, 2 times speed. You have different speed settings there. This is the play button on the far left, and this is 10 seconds back. Audio level and manage recordings. If you want to delete your recording, you can hit edit, hit the red thing there, delete. Plus, this gives you different media settings. If you want to take a photo of the board or something, so this lets you go to your gallery. This one lets you physically take a photo if you'd like. My iPad covers get in the way, obviously, but you can take a photo of the whiteboard, the blackboard, whatever your professor's doing, PowerPoint slides. You can enter a GIF. I don't really see the use in this. It's probably just really distracting. Figure. Okay, so this lets you insert a figure in there with a caption. That could be useful for something that might be shared among your classmates or something to make it more clear, but personally, I would not use that feature. Web clip. So you can take a clip of a website, stick it in your notes. Maybe if you're more of a self-learner, you're not going to school or anything, and you learn more from websites rather than professors, that would be useful as a reference, but I don't really use that either. Stickies. So this one, it can just be a reminder. So I like to take photos of the board. If there are lecture slides or something, I can go to photos and insert them in. But that's basically what I use that tab for. Utilities, paper, I showed you this already. Info and help, not really important. And this shows you the different pages you have. Here you can add different pages, you can delete your pages, make it to your liking, I suppose. Alright, so that basically is the run-through of Notability on a basic standpoint. I'd like to show you some examples of the notes I've taken over this past semester because I thought that I had some pretty good notes for people to look at and use as a template for how you take your notes because they've served me rather well. I did pretty well on my finals this semester, so I hope I can spread the love out there. Another super useful trick is with the pen tool. If you draw a line and hold it at the end, as long as it's relatively straight, you can draw a straight line. You also got that magnification there if you just hold it there. So this is really good for making like axes for a graph. It's good for drawing squares because it knows exactly how to line up a square. See, everything is lined up and symmetrical. You can also draw circles. So if you draw a circle like that, leave it there, and you can create a circle, vary its radius. So that's another way to make your notes look a bit cleaner. I think that'll help a lot. So while I was making this video, it looks like Ginger Labs decided to push out their 9.0 update. And in this, they've actually added full shape support. So they've got circles, triangles, squares, pentagons, hexagons, irregular shapes, they say, along with all these features that are included in the patch notes. They've added a partial eraser, which I actually mentioned earlier in the video. Instead of it being a stroke erase, there's an option for a partial erase, like a normal eraser. We've also got image rotation and crop. Probably not going to use this too much, but they've actually added native dot paper in the paper settings that you saw while I was making that note. So that's pretty convenient. I wonder if the dots are as good as the template that I use, the PDF template. So we're going to have to find that out. So here's an example from my material science class, which I hated. So these are notes directly out of the textbook because I did not want to go to class for this. So your items in blue, they were in blue in the textbook. They're obviously key terms, and I have definitions associated with each. I also added in section titles, section headers. So 10.2, solubility limit, just to keep myself organized. 10.6, these green items were sort of big section headers. So I put in binary phase diagrams just to keep myself organized. Like everything that's color-coded is in coordination with the textbook. Got a couple formulas down below. Yeah, and here's an example of importing a figure. My textbook had an online version, so I just used snipping tool and imported it into these notes. Also, this drawing, it looks really nice, even though I am the furthest thing from an artist. My artistic talent is very low. But with Notability and an Apple Pencil, you can sort of fake it a little bit. That looks kind of nice. I've got some more examples of those too. So yeah, this is just how I organize my stuff. I write in terms of key terms, and anything that looks important on the page, I make sure to have it in my notes. Here's another picture. Like, that looks beautiful to me. Having your notes look nice is definitely a plus. Anyone who needs help, you can show them your notes, and if your notes look nice, they're gonna really enjoy that. Here's another drawing. Like, my gosh, I could never do this with pencil or paper. And it helps you learn too. It makes it more enjoyable. I like taking these kind of notes. It's really satisfying when you're finished with them. And you know that you're learning. Like, look at all this information. At one point, I knew all this stuff. Now I don't remember it. All right, moving on to another example. Okay, so this example is something that I actually turned in for a class. This is my final thermodynamics project, and it was to analyze a Brayton cycle. So the way I have this set up are givens at the top of each section. So the values that I'm going to be reusing multiple times, I keep at the top. I also have important diagrams. So here's a system representation, and here is a PV diagram of the Brayton cycle. Moving down, I've got my first question. I split up my different systems to solve this question into 4 sections using those straight lines I showed you. It keeps things pretty neat and where things should be. It keeps everything organized. And keep going down. I've boxed my answers. Another nice diagram here to remind myself what I'm doing. And this is actually the first time that I've gotten a compliment on how neat my work was. When I got this passed back, my TA made a remark that this looks really nice. So I'm proud of that. This just shows you that Notability is really powerful for creating all types of different documents, whether it's notes, whether it's actual assignments, projects. Yeah, if you like what you're seeing, you can do this too with an iPad and an Apple Pencil. So that about wraps up my Notability overview. It was really low level, nothing too complicated or advanced. I just developed some tips and tricks that I have found while using the app, and I thought I could share that with you guys. If you guys want to see more content like this, I might be trying GoodNotes 5 in the future. So anything paperless, you can see me doing that in the next 2 years while I'm still in school. All right, leave a like if you like this, subscribe if you want to see more. Hope to see you guys again. Peace out.